I often hear from liberals and progressives who are very critical of Walmart that the Costco business model is better because they pay their employees more. But I think there's a big problem. Well, there's several big problems with that. It's comparing apples to oranges because obviously Costco is a club and Walmart is a store. So there's a big difference there. In one quarter, in 2015, Costco received $585 million in club membership fees. That means that before they had to give anyone any product, they already had earned $585 million. And that means that the people who wanted to shop there had to pony up money for nothing except the privilege of getting into their stores and buying things. And that is a barrier to entry for many low-income people and many of other means who aren't willing to pay them money just to shop at their stores. The other thing to remember is that the savings are not constant or consistent. They earn a higher gross margin than Walmart. What does that mean? It means for every dollar you spend at, I suppose, both between membership fees and purchase price, you pay more dollars for what you buy at Costco over and above the cost of the products they sell than you do if you shop at Walmart. And that is another thing that if the liberals and progressives were being consistent, I think they would be outraged about that, because they always talk about how terrible it is when corporations extract, as to use their word, extract profits from people. And that is real extraction when they actually get people overall in their stores to give them more money over and above the cost of the products than Walmart does. And there's another aspect to that, and that is that they bank on the often false impression that bulk buying is more affordable than buying at smaller units. As an example, I know observing over time that there used to be a time, because I always look at the unit price of everything I buy if it's available, or I calculate it many times if it's not. It has often in the past been the case that bulk items are cheaper per unit than smaller unit items. But it isn't true anymore, and it certainly isn't always true. There are many products that I've checked, breakfast cereals, chips, and so forth, where the higher unit quantities are actually more expensive. But many people, I believe, and I think this is part of the Costco business model, is that people assume that the higher quantity is more affordable, and they're often wrong. So there are many products that they are selling, and they must know this, that they are selling for a higher unit cost than they could get if they went to a grocery store or a Walmart. So again, I would think liberals and progressives would be upset by that and would think that's not appropriate. However, it is true that they use some of that margin to pay their employees more. So that's the cost. The cost of paying the employees more is that the consumers have to pay more per unit than they would in many cases, and overall, if they went to Walmart or some other retailer. And finally, all of this exposes the problem of trying to do what these people sort of imply should be done, that Walmart should adopt the model of Costco and pay their employees more. The problem with that is Costco may have maxed out the model. They may already be catering between them and Sam's Club and some other clubs like them. They may already be catering to all of the people who are actually interested in joining club to buy things. I'm not interested in doing that. And a lot of poor people are probably not going to be able to afford to pay up front and then buy everything that they need to buy in bulk, because they may not have space for it and they may not be able to use it before it's all spoiled. So it's not necessarily a sustainable model. And I would say the evidence is pretty clear that it is definitely not a sustainable model. And that exposes the final point, which is this is what's wrong with progressivism, liberalism, and socialism. What's wrong with it is that these people who think they know so much about the economy and about what people want and what people need and how much people should be paid, that they think that they can pick and choose which business model should be used over the other one. And if the outcome of doing that, which is what they would do if they had the power, they would say to Walmart, you have to take this model because we think you're cheating people. They're trying to do it through, just passing the minimum wage and expecting that somehow Walmart's just going to wave a magic wand and change their model. So whether they did it passively or actively, they would be saying to Walmart, you have to charge people a fee to join a club to shop at your stores. And then what we would find out is, almost certainly, most people won't do that. A lot of people can't do it. And therefore, at that level, when you try to glut that market with that kind of retail, it will start to tank. And because you've converted one of the biggest retailers into that model, you would then have decreased the amount of available retail space used for the retail products and the pricing that most people want to use. Which means you would have what you always have in socialist countries like Venezuela and Cuba. You have people waiting in line, long lines, for food that may be affordable theoretically, but there isn't enough to go around because there's no incentive to produce enough of it to make it worthwhile for people. That's the problem. It exposes the fact that they've misunderstood the business model, they've compared apples and oranges, they've overlooked the ways that the Costco business model actually harms consumers who aren't interested in high-end bulk purchasing, and it exposes the fact that their forms of interventionism are simply too dangerous to rely on, because the bureaucrats don't know enough to make the economy run. And then we end up in Venezuela, where people can't get enough food.